Welcome to TechMark Pod, where we innovate, discuss, and discover the dynamic intersection of technology and marketing. In each episode, we explore how businesses can leverage both to drive growth and innovation. Meet Alvin, our esteemed host for TechMark Pod. With over 15 years of experience as a renowned marketer, project manager, and software as a service architect. Join us as we uncover the unique value proposition of integrating technology and marketing strategies, helping you stay ahead in this fast-paced digital world.
Hi everyone, welcome to TechMark Pod. Today marks the first episode of season 2. We completed season 1 last week when we had the 20th episode. So today's first episode of season 2, we are going virtual. Our guest is Kuziwa. Kuziwa is an avid marketer from Zimbabwe. As much as you know, TechMark Pod is an African podcast, and we'll be featuring a lot of people that are doing great things across Africa in tech and marketing. And Kuziwa becomes one of the first people that we're doing a virtual interview with. Kuziwa, welcome to TechMark Pod.
Thank you, Alvin. So great to be here. How are you today?
No, I'm great. I'm awesome. Every day I'm awesome. I can't complain.
Great. That's an amazing spirit.
Yeah. So, Kuziwa, as a tradition, we always want to ask our guests to introduce themselves. Would you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Kuzivakwashe Mpofu. I'm based in Zimbabwe. Founded a marketing and business consulting firm in the year 2024. That's when I went full-time into that. It's called Imani Consulting, and Imani Consulting is about helping businesses move from one level to the next. Our main service is called team capacitation, but we also do offer a full suite of marketing services. And then outside of that, we also do offer what we call high impact initiatives or high impact events, where we run specific initiatives that bring government, corporates, and different stakeholders within communities together. Outside of that, I am qualified with a business degree, and my major was in marketing. I did that with Midland State University here in Zimbabwe. I've since worked for multinational businesses like Unilever. I've worked in construction, I've worked in software, I've worked for a group of companies that was involved in a whole lot of industries at the same time as head of marketing. So that's a little bit about me and where I'm coming from today.
I think that's a lot. I mean, you're like, that's a little bit about me, but that's a lot about you already. So tell me, when did you start in your marketing journey? I understand you went to Midland State University. By the way, I was at Midland State University as well, some years back. Yeah. But when did you start in your marketing journey?
So I'd say my marketing journey began when I was still at school at Midland State University. You know, when you study at a Zimbabwean institution, one of the things is attachment. That's what they call it, work-related learning. So I was fortunate enough to get placement at Unilever Zimbabwe at the time. And Unilever is known as the university of companies, or is known as a marketing organization as well. So I was placed in what they call the customer marketing department. Well, that's what they called it back then. Now it's called channel and category development. And my role as an intern was to make sure that execution in market happened. I worked with the merchandisers a lot. I worked with my bosses to make sure that promotions landed. So I had the experience of seeing how Unilever gets their product into the OK Grand Challenge, for example, and how they put in point of sale material on shelf. Back then, the business was still thriving. So there was the Vaseline Winter Warmer, which was a big promotion at the time. It was a big deal. So I got to be part of the Vaseline Winter Warmer edition of 2016. And it was exciting putting together the point of sale material, recruiting the brand ambassadors that would be in the stores and that would promote the product. I also got to be part of Lux. Those days, Lux was really hot in the market. We were targeting middle to high income earning families or people, and we ran an interesting promotion. We also had a partnership with Sterkinacor at the time, so that was exciting. So I think one of the other highlights to be part of a Royco relaunch. I think that was my last project just before I went back to school. So I had an in-depth understanding, or I got great exposure to kick off my marketing career. So while they call it work-related learning, and sometimes it doesn't count on your CV, for me it counted, because that's when I realized my real love for marketing, my real passion for the space that I was getting into. And after that, I just wanted to continue.
Really? I think work-related learning really add to your CV, and I think you had a great run. So you worked. I don't know how the structure worked in Zim back then. So did they have brand managers for those different products, Lux, Vaseline, and all the stuff?
Yes. So the business did have is, but then what you'd find is that because the business was broad, you would have category managers. So, for example, under personal care, there was Skin Cleanse, which spoke to soap, which was Geisha, Lifebuoy, Lux, everything to do with washing your body or, body cleanliness. And then there was skincare. Skincare was where Vaseline was resident, where Dove lotion was resident, where Dawn was resident and still is resident. So anything to do with skincare and moisturizing your skin or things that you apply on your skin, that is skincare. And then there's face care, but then face care wasn't very big in Zimbabwe at the time. As you know, Pond's is a Unilever brand. And then I think they Even and Lovely then came into the market a lot later. And then under personal care as well, there was deodorants, which is where your Shield comes in, your Axe, and anything to do with antiperspirant and smelling good. So that's just one category. That's personal care, and it's already broken into three. And then you'd have foods. Foods would be broken into savory and spreads. So savory was then where Royco was resident, where Knorr as a brand is resident, and then the foods and then the spreads bit is where you have your Stork margarine and your other spreads. But then the spreads business was sold. I think it was sold round about 2018 or so, as the business saw that the world is now shifting to more wellness and less of fat, etc. So they didn't want to keep a portfolio that would potentially sink in the long run. So it was sold off to somebody else. So when I was at Unilever at the time, I worked mostly under personal care. And that's why I did Lux. That's why I did the Vaseline. That's why I did a little bit of deodorants, but at the time that was still fairly slow during my work-related learning. And then I got to be part of foods for a little bit. And then there was also home care, by the way, which is where the Sunlight master brand is resident. That's where you have your dishwash liquid. That's where you have your Sunlight washing powder. And then that's where Surf is also resident. That's where Omo is also resident. And then that's where your Handy Andy and your Domestos also are. So they would then be split as according to household care, which spoke to the detergents that speak to cleaning, and then there was powders which spoke to washing.
Great. That's amazing. I think that was quite a good exposure in terms of marketing. And I think by then, most of the work that you guys did was traditional marketing, right?
Yes, you are right. Yes, definitely. I think traditional marketing was still fairly big back in that time because that was 2015 to 2016. I remember joining Unilever, I was so proud to see all the billboards that Unilever had all over the place. You now look back at where Sam Levy's Village Walk now is. That space, when it was being developed before there were even buildings, there was a lot of canvas around that area, and that was used as advertising space. So you could drive down that entire strip, from where Sam Levy's Village begins to where Village Walk now begins, where there's that chicken inn, and there would be Vaseline, there would be Lifebuoy, there would be Dove, there would be Shield. Dominated out of home back in the day. Unilever dominated TV back in the day. Unilever was so big in terms of radio back in the day. And then the in-store execution was it was off the charts. It was something that was just out of this world. I got the greatest exposure and the greatest foundation as marketing as far as I'm concerned.
Do you think that the impact of marketing then and the impact of marketing today, or the activities that probably products are putting into their marketing efforts, are they still the same? Are they different? Are they better than they used to do it back then? What do you think? Because I know you mentioned that almost everywhere you're driving, you're seeing a billboard. So it was in your face, right? And today, maybe we have got a new bathing soap that has been produced by a certain local company. Are they putting that much effort as much as Unilever used to do it?
Okay. So the world has definitely shifted. I think the world of marketing the market has shifted since 2015, 2016, when I was a student on attachment. I think even when I rejoined the business in 2017, the market had largely shifted, in a big way. Digital was becoming a big deal, and it's interesting because a couple of weeks back, I was reading on traditional media versus social media and the roles of the two. So, there's this myth that traditional media is obsolete and, digital is the new thing. But, when you look at marketing, is equity building. There is building the share of space in somebody's mind. And then there is, the everyday execution that you are doing to keep people engaging with your product, with your brand, and triggering the decision. So when you put up a billboard, don't expect somebody to make a U-turn and go to a store to buy your product. That's not what it's about. It's about top of mind awareness. It's about equity building. It's about people constantly knowing and remembering that there is a Lifebuoy, there is a Geisha, there is a Coca-Cola. That is why your big multinational companies continue to invest in traditional media. It's about equity. But now, switch to the world of digital. Digital now reinforces what you see on the road when you're driving. So you see the Coca-Cola billboard, but then when you're now scrolling on TikTok, you see a short video, and then you remember, Coke, and then you laugh about it. When you do get into the store and you are standing in front of a shelf, the chances of you picking up a Coke are a lot higher because you're engaging with the brand from a traditional space out of home when you're driving. And then when you're on your phone, when you see that ad popping up on your Facebook, on your YouTube, on whatever, they're constantly in your face. So marketing is a game of consistently being in the face of your market and engaging with them in the different touch points. So when somebody's driving, you're speaking to them indirectly. When they're watching TV, you're speaking to them. When they're on their phone, you're interrupting whatever they're doing on their phone just to say, hi, I'm here. By the way, I'm running a promotion. And now when I get into the store, I don't know if the promotion is still running, but I know that Coca-Cola is running a promotion where you get 4 of those, the traditional bottles that they used to have. I think it's the 330 mils, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
You get 4 of those for $1 right now in specific outlets here in Zimbabwe. It's happening. I heard about it on radio. Radio is a traditional media, but I do listen to radio at a certain time. So you also need to know when your market is listening or would ideally be on air or would interact with your brand. And then that digital comes in to reinforce. And that is what keeps marketing running. And I think that is how some brands are continuously winning and some are not. So I think it's leveraging the 2 channels in a clever way, so to speak.
Okay, that's quite interesting. And I just want to ask, when you were working for Unilever, did you work in any other markets or it was only the Zimbabwean market?
So when I rejoined the business after I finished school, I worked across Southern Africa. So I worked for Zimbabwe. I was based here in Zimbabwe. I took care of the Zambian market. I took care of Mozambique, Malawi, Madagascar, Mauritius. I took care of DRC. I think those were the markets that I looked after the most when I was with the business. And I took care of a category that they called Skin Cleanse. So that's why I'll refer to Lifebuoy quite a bit because Lifebuoy is my baby. It's close to my heart.
Yeah.
And I helped with the deodorants category at the time. We were privileged to be part of the start of the Shield and Chelsea football partnership when Unilever had just brokered it. And we were one of the teams that got to be part of a campaign where Chelsea Football Club sent some coaches, representative coaches, to come into Zim and host some football clinics and pick a player with the most potential to go to the UK and have that experience. So I got to be part of that very special journey, assisting. Her name was Susan Luneta, and she was a graduate trainee, or she was a management trainee at the time. And we worked on this together. I helped her mostly on the Zim side, and then she took care of Zambia and the rest of the markets on her own. So we worked on the same portfolio, on the same team, which was personal care.
Interesting. So I wanted to ask a question in terms of the different markets. Did you guys encounter any, what can I say, any hindrance to market penetration in whichever markets that you were in Africa? Let's say, for example, you wanted to market geisha in Zimbabwe, but the same communication or the same delivery was different with the way you had to market it in Madagascar.
Okay. All right. So I think as far as market penetration goes, the good thing is that we were working for a business that was fairly established across the world. So, it made things a lot So you'll find that at the time that I looked after Skin Cleanse, Zambia was a very hot market for us. Lifebuoy was definitely in the market. Dettol was, throwing punches, or Dettol was leading at the time. Protex was also doing the most. And then there's a new product that came in. It was called Romeo. So as far as competition goes, it was really hot. It was crazy. You had to be running the in-store activations. You had to be so creative to make sure that you deliver the best for your brand. You deliver the best in terms of what the business expected you to deliver, which was then the volume and the profitability and naturally the money. I think in other markets like Madagascar, in other markets like DRC, yes, our product was there. I think one thing that I learned was that the markets were very different, and it meant that you had to localize the plans. I'll give an example of 2018. We had a serious cholera outbreak here in Zimbabwe. And, it was it 2017 or 2018? I think it was 2018. It was just nuts. It was just too much. And we had this global hand washing campaign, and Global had said, we are running this high five for hand washing. And, you had to be going around giving people high fives. So the thrust was high five for hand washing, give us a high five for hand washing. And, naturally with cholera, you can't be doing high fives, or you can't be giving high fives, because that means you are spreading the disease. So we had to stop and say to Global, we are now going left. Zimbabwe and Zambia are currently experiencing a major cholera outbreak. Run a campaign that we are calling Kick Out Cholera. And it had to be an exception because the market was going through that. So our global hand washing campaign was now centered around kicking out cholera. We put in hand sanitizer in the market. That was the time that Lifebuoy was now bringing in hand sanitizers. The market was not quite ready for it, but we brought it into the markets anyway because they needed that. Our in-store material spoke to kicking out cholera. Whenever you heard about us on radio, we were talking about kicking out cholera. And as a result, we got the value, we got to deliver the volume, the market got what it needed at that particular time. Southeast Africa became an example. And now, as a person who had led this drive against cholera, I think the next year, 2019, there was an outbreak in another part of Africa. And now, category leads and more senior management were saying, oh no, speak to Kuziva in Zimbabwe because she's dealt with cholera on a big scale.
Yeah.
So speak to her and let her share the notes and the files in terms of how she has executed and how you can localize in the market. So what I do appreciate, or what I did appreciate about the Unilever business, is that you had freedom to localize material to suit that market. If we got a TVC in English, we could then say we need a TVC in Shona. We could say we need an advert in Shona that speaks to what we are trying to push in Zimbabwe. So there was always room to do that, and you could always then justify to category or to brand development and say we have now apportioned a certain amount of our budget to make sure that this now speaks to Zimbabwe, or this now speaks to Zambia, etc. So whenever we executed, it was who am I speaking to, what is the best language, and how do I make sure that I get the value that the business requires.
Great. So was there an instance of having a different soap with the different components for a different market? Maybe localizing a soap for Zambia and localizing a soap for Madagascar and Zimbabwe and all that? But
No.
same soap.
Same value proposition. For Lifebuoy, it was always about germ protection. The innovation team would always make sure that we are ahead as far as the product makeup is concerned. So at the time that I was with the business, there was the active silver ingredient that we were adding to Lifebuoy soap, which would make it more efficient or more effective in terms of dealing with germ protection. So when they speak about 99% of germ protection, and when they talk about active silver, it's real. It's not a myth. It's not a theory. The business actually takes time to invest in that. So the product is generally the same. What then happens is that as a brand manager or as a brand lead in a country, you determine when an innovation hits the market. So for example, when I was also within the business, liquids was becoming a thing. We were coming from a space where bar soap was still a big deal. Bar soap was a thing. But now the market was transitioning to liquids. South Africa was already there as far as we were concerned. There was already Lifebuoy. Lifebuoy hand wash was already there, but a Lifebuoy body wash was something that was coming in very quickly. South Africa was in a position to adopt that a lot faster than Zimbabwe and Zambia could have. So for Zimbabwe and Zambia, we had deferred it and said, yes, we see that it is landing in market in year X, which may have been 2018, 2019, but we will be ready for body wash in the year 2020 onwards, because I think the market will be in a better space to adopt it. And I think now, looking at 2025, if Unilever was still 100% in the market, I think as far as marketing efforts would go, liquid soap would definitely be a big thing, because that is where the market currently is. Everybody wants, to just squeeze some soap out, lather, and they get on with their bath. But back in the day, they still want to rub soap onto a towel or onto a glove, or onto a glove or into a sponge. We had that. We would speak to, this product is not yet ready for the market, as opposed to different products for different markets. What did exist though, and what does exist though, is that the product can have different names in a different country. So for example, and it has Sure as a name, same brand, same product, same everything, different market, different name based on where it is.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So after the Unilever, you then went on to different industries.
Yeah.
I think you've given a lot of value to these industries. I think there's engineering, there's all sorts of. So I just want you to summarize the industries that you have been involved in. You also went on radio. I think there was a radio station, right? Yeah, there was a radio station you work for. Yeah. So just summarize that, then we'll get into Imani,
Okay. Awesome. So from Unilever, I went into software. That was very different. I was brand manager for a product that they call Pay, or I focus mostly on financial services or financial solutions. So we had a payment gateway and an application that helped people paying for their ZESA, etc. So that was one thing. I think for me, the biggest achievement at the time was that I got to sell a core banking system to a new bank that was coming into the Zimbabwean market. So that was exciting. That was very interesting. I did that for about a year, and then I went back into FMCG because I thought I really belonged there. So I did a very, very short stint in FMCG. And then after that, I went into construction. I was with Beta Holdings for about a year as well. That was interesting, learning about bricks and how bricks are made, learning to sell in a different space altogether. So, coming from software where you're learning to sell a service, and then you've got a product once again, but it's a product that has a very different audience, very different market. That was very interesting, and marketing in a very different way. From construction, I went into a group of companies called Quattro Investments, and I was group marketing for the entire business, and they had stake in different spaces. So Square Deal Zimbabwe is an example. It was part of that portfolio. Techhold Engineering is part of that portfolio. They specialize in special electrical solutions, from solar to substations to power lines, and the most, so that was also very different. We had a company that was also selling PPE. At the time, it was called Allen Hart. We had interest in farming through a group called A-Stock. There was the side where they were growing produce in the fields, and then there was also different products that were being sold in Farm and City, which was specifically animal health. And then there was a bit of mining in there. There was some mining equipment in that particular space through a brand that they called Machinery Grid and Equipment Services. It was broad. There was a lot. Sometimes when I was with Quattro, there were times when I call brands babies. So, I would just get a baby and we just need you to dress this baby up and get it going. So I would just do the brand development, give it a logo, give it a company profile, give it the bare basics, and then the baby goes on, And then there were some babies that needed more time, that needed more attention, that needed a lot of love. So it was a lot of adapting. It was a lot of learning in new spaces. I think definitely was not bored. I get bored very quickly. So I really enjoyed my journey. Oh yes, we also had an energy business at the time, and I got to rebrand that and got to be involved with branding of service stations and getting new uniforms and just creating a whole new thing altogether. And that I lived for. I really enjoyed that. I left Quattro to join a radio station. I went to YFM. They trade as as Ray of Hope. And that was a regional radio station. They are stationed in Shishavani, they're stationed in Gweru. The head office is here in Harare because that's where the market is. I did a lot of travel during that time. I was there very briefly. I think that business needed a lot of change. It needed a lot of drive. I think I poured a lot into it. And then I realized, wow, so I do have it in me to run my own business in whatever maybe sector it may be. So I didn't stay there very long. I then stepped back and I decided to focus on baby Imani, which we have today.
Yeah, I mean, you've brought so much value to these brands. If you look where you started, I mean, it was an international company, right? And then you've gone to these other medium enterprises and corporates and whatever small business that you've been through, and now you gave birth to Imani. I mean, congratulations to you. It's quite an achievement as a marketer to be able to have your own brand and be yourself and add more value to more clients. So let's talk about Imani. So Imani, I think when I spoke to you last time, you spoke about the business concept that you have with Imani, and I think it was actually cool. From a marketing point of view, I was like, okay, this is cool. I love it.
Yeah.
I want you to dive into that as soon as possible so that we can just dismantle it, because we need to we need to absorb ourselves into the marketing gospel. You know what I mean?
Okay. So with Imani, there are three main things, right? The first thing is what everybody knows is your typical marketing services. People want social media. People want, what are the things that people need in a typical agency? They need graphic design. It's the typical day-to-day that people need in terms of marketing services. And to be honest, Alvin, Zimbabwe has so many marketing agencies that are saying we can run your social media, we do digital, we do it, guys. I'm a marketer. I worked in corporates. I worked in different businesses. I've worked with so many agencies. I would know. I could hop, skip, and jump from one agency to the next. And everybody is offering something different, but it's the same thing. It's the same product. They're offering digital because digital is big. They're saying we can take you to radio. We can create concepts for you. All well and good. I love that. I enjoy that part of marketing. But, as I was navigating this journey, I wanted Imani to be very different. I wanted to be different. I actually have a little brand that I call Be Different, and I think Be Different will start featuring at some point. But for me, it's always been about making a difference. It's always been about being different. It's always been about charting my own path, even if it doesn't make sense to the next person. That's me. So yes, we do offer businesses the typical marketing services, but we don't dwell too much on that. We don't spend too much time on that. I wouldn't lose sleep if I didn't have social media clients because there's 50 other people that offer that. Okay. What I do over is my high impact events and initiatives and my team capacitation. That is where Imani becomes different. So let's dive a little bit into high impact events and initiatives. So last year, we worked with Ster-Kinekor for a little bit. Sam Levy's Village, they were still open at the time. It was unfortunate that we were part of the journey when they were now closing down. And we did a special Mother's Day activation, call it an activation. And we invited
Zio, I just wanted to say, Ster-Kinekor, I think they closed another cinema in Joburg, not in Joburg, but in South Africa. I think it was in Durban, if I think about a few weeks ago. So, I mean, it's normal with them now. I mean, we've got Netflix and everything's happening, so the competition is tight.
Yeah, I think cinema is definitely suffering in a big way because of Netflix and Prime and all these, cheaper solutions. Why would I go to the cinema when I can pay $7 to watch unlimited content in a month? I mean, I can binge a whole series with 12 seasons if I want, So yeah. But yes, Ster-Kinekor was I guess a brand that we worked with just for a little bit. Mother's Day was very interesting. KDV Bedding came to sponsor. They gave away a whole bed. We had different brands around Semle's Village and different commercial stores coming in to partner that initiative. It was very exciting. It was different. When Father's Day was coming, we decided let's go big. Let's get a car, boys and their toys. And the movie that was screening at that time was Bad Boys 4. That's when it was coming out. So we looked for Croco, we looked for Simoko, and Croco said, yes, we're coming. And, they have this Raptor, this amazing beast for the road. I love cars. I know I'm a girl, but I love cars. So that was exciting. getting the Raptor into the lobby. So whenever people were coming in, there was this beautiful Raptor that was branded. It was there. It would be started periodically, and then they would rev the car and everybody would stop. It was amazing. So we brought on this entire Father's Day campaign. Croco then said, you know what? We want to have a movie premiere for our special customers through our Julie Motors brand. So Julie Motors came in, they brought their special customers, we gave them the prestige cinema, we gave them an amazing experience, gave them cocktails, made sure that there was a bar, they could drink what they wanted, also made sure that we had a caterer bringing different finger foods, it's not your typical samosas, it's not your spring rolls, it's different things altogether. And Chef Oli is always our plug whenever we want to feed people that we feel are valued stakeholders to the Imani business. So we did that. I think that was me transitioning out of YFM. And then we partnered with the Diplomat Business Networking Club, or they call themselves the Diplomat. We did a sustainable mobility luncheon with Zimoko. Zimoko was the main sponsor. They came. They displayed the electric vehicle, the Aura 3. That was beautiful. We brought in different deputy ambassadors from different countries. I think we had representation from 12 markets or from 12 different countries. So that was exciting, having that conversation on sustainable mobility. Why are we moving from your petrol vehicles and moving more into your hybrid and into your electric vehicles, and how are these vehicles and where are the power stations? Because if I'm going to go to Bluewayo with my electric vehicle, am I going to come back? I may have the energy to go, but do I come back? Where do I charge it? So that's a conversation that we started with Zimoko, and the journey has not ended. We are looking forward to doing some more initiatives with Zimoko as Imani. I think to close off the year 2024, Imani hosted a golf day in Inyanga. It was a diplomat golf day. We had representation from 2 different markets. I think because it was something that we did without enough time. We didn't have as many people coming through, but we did have an intimate golf day. We had representation from Korea. We had representation from Malaysia. We had some of Nyaradzo's top executives coming through. We had executive from I think we had somebody from ZB Bank. We had people from Tutorial Homeschool. We had a good mix. So it was a beautiful, small, intimate golf day that allowed people to come in and talk about business and talk about the different opportunities. And I was happy. I was like, this I want to do and I want to do more of. So as 2025 began, I was like, okay, we have worked with other brands. We have made an impact for other brands, but what do we own as Imani? So Recycling Revolution Africa was born. So it's a partnership between Imani Consulting and Iconicus Communications. We are 2 ladies. One specializes in communications when it comes to customer service, media. That's Christina base. Her name is Christina Nyirenda. And then there's Kuziva, who loves to bring impact, who always loves to bring in change and to chart her own path. So Recycling Revolution Africa was born out of that. How do we raise eco-conscious leaders in schools across Africa? How do we get young children to engage in sustainability issues? Because I'm very passionate about sustainability, and that is what my high impact initiatives are about. How do we bring together government, business, and your diplomatic or international community into the same room to talk about the things that really matter? How do we make sure that tomorrow's generation is conscious of the damage? How do we make sure that we bring down those CO2 emissions so that, the world continues to turn? We have to leave something for the children. And if we're not intentional, there's going to be nothing, So that is what recycling. So we started with the recycling competition. Our initial passion, Christina is a media person. I love public speaking. I love debate. We wanted to do that. But then we realized it's the first term. It's the beginning of the year. We are not going to be able to break through to the market because there's already so many established spaces. So we went the recycling route, and that's where Recycling Revolution Africa came from. So we decided, let's create a competition. Let's invite schools to partner. Let's do this. To be honest, I wouldn't say that we have millions of dollars or we had a lot of money to throw at it. It was pure drive and pure we want this that got us there. Can we pour a little bit of fuel to get to point X? Yes, we can. Can we boost a little bit of our content with the little bit of money that we have? Yes, we can. We have 20 schools within the Recycling Revolution network right now, from the little that we have. As at Monday, the 19th of May, we started receiving, or we started getting pictures of the submissions that the students have actually worked on and completed, and they're due for collection by Friday, the 23rd of May. And for us, it's wow. It started as a conversation. It started as a can we. It started at we don't have resources, but where there's a will, there's a way. And, the major that needed to be done, they are taken care of. Somebody is sponsoring the prizes for us. Somebody is sponsoring the logistical nightmare of picking up the different pieces from the different schools that have brought their pieces. Somebody is giving us the space to store these pieces. People that are in the industry and in the market that are also equally passionate about sustainability and the future of the children have said, we will come in and we will partner Recycling Revolution Africa, and we will adjudicate this competition and make sure that it's free and it's fair. We have put in the work, we have put in the time, but we are so excited to see that we are almost at the my former school, Gateway High School, is the venue for
Yeah.
our prize event, which is scheduled for the 31st of July. They've given us space in their calendar. They're going to host us. We are on our way. So that's
Congratulations for that.
Thank
That's
you.
congratulations, because I mean, it's an achievement, eh?
So that is Recycling Revolution Africa, and that's what we are doing as far as high impact initiatives go. But we didn't stop there. The missions are due. But then we realized, okay, so are we going to wait until next year for the kids to come back to compete? No, let's keep the children engaged. Let's keep the schools engaged. Let's have a program that is sustainable. So the next thing is a debate competition that we are calling Voices for a Greener Future. So that will take place in September. Our date is to be confirmed, but Millennial Academy in Zimbabwe, in Harare, is going to be the host. They're going to host, I don't know how many schools are going to sign up for this competition. And it's going to be a one-day event. It's going to be speaking about sustainability, speaking about the real issues. The kids are going to talk about this, and we are going to see how far they're really thinking about these issues. How deep do they go? The unfortunate thing is that there's so much TikTok, there's so much Facebook, there's so much Instagram. The kids are so invested in that. We want them to be thinking constantly or every so often about the issues, about the future and the environment and sustainability. So this is why Recycling Revolution exists, to engage the students. So third term, September, it's on. Whether we get 5 schools, whether we get 20 schools, whether we get 200 schools, the train is going to take off in September. And then in November, we're going to wrap it up with a golf day at Royal Harare. We love golf. We know that corporate people love golf. We know that golf is where people love to converse, and it's a beautiful time for people to just network. So that's where now we're going to bring in the schools, the corporates, and the different people that want to be part of this revolution. We will display the pieces from the competition. We will showcase videos of the debate competition, and most of all, we will converse after a game of golf, over dinner, over cocktails, and talk about where we are intending to take this thing called Recycling Revolution Africa and how everybody fits into the mix. So that is our own high impact initiative.
I think I like the way that you are involving all stakeholders into this initiative. The drive is really is real, and I believe that I mean you definitely achieve a lot with the way you guys are driving it. Let's go back to Imani. I think the you said Imani, there's two, right? You spoke of
Yes.
one, then the
Yeah.
second one.
Yeah. Team capacitation.
Yes.
Yes. So with team capacitation, it started with one business actually. Well, is it one or two? But it started with a business, a friend of mine actually that I go to church with, and they're like, we know that you are into marketing. Can you come in and teach our team? They don't know what they're doing as much, and we need help. We need guidance. And I said, okay, cool.
So let me put it this way, Kuziwa. If we are to add value to a company, whether it's in your target market, are you only doing Zimbabwe, or you can do any other country?
Any country, any
Any
market.
country in Africa, right? So let's talk about the African market. So
Yes.
If we are to define your target market, let's define it and say, is it a small, medium, or corporate? They've existing marketing teams, and you identifying the pain points, and Imani comes in and to address those pain points. This is what
Yeah.
we are talking about. So I want you to explain it like you're explaining to a 3-year-old so that, we understand exactly what you're talking about and what you're going to do for us as your target market.
Okay. So first of all, I think to just expand on the target market, we are targeting business owners, business leads, because they're the people that make the decision, right? And we know that business owners and business leaders struggle with in their businesses right now is an issue to do with mindset. So while, yes, we are specialized in marketing, we don't draw the line there because I do have business exposure as the lead consultant, and my business partner is also a business consultant. So we have enough arsenal around us to change or to bring change into a business. So we know that mindset is an issue. The boss is thinking one thing, the subordinates are thinking one thing, there's no alignment, which means the business cannot achieve its goals. We will not reach the destination, right? The second thing is culture. Peter Drucker says, culture eats you for breakfast, right? That's what he says. On any day, no matter who you are, even if you're the best organization in the world and you have a kick-ass strategy, as long as your culture is crap, you are not going anywhere. That strategy is not going to see the light of day. Sorry. The third thing is effective teams, team dynamics. Is there trust within the team? Does the team communicate? Do they know the different things? Can they work together as a team? Yes, no, maybe. These are the challenges that I've also seen as I've moved from one entity to the next as I was moving in my career. The last thing is accountability and ownership. So there's four main things. Accountability is a big deal in organizations. People do not know how to admit that I was wrong. People are so, my goodness, when it comes to accountability, we're always looking for somebody to throw under the bus. We're always looking for a reason why it's not my fault and why it's the next person's fault. It's okay to say, I was overwhelmed. It's okay to say, I overlooked it. It's okay to say, I forgot. But does the culture within the organization allow you to admit that? Does the culture within organizations right now allow people to fail forward? Fail forward being you make a mistake today and it's a learning. I remember when I was with the Quattro Group, I think it was 2023, we were going to ADMA, and I had two different entities that were going. And I made the mistake of picking the wrong agency. I thought they were the ones. They did not deliver, Alvin. We were $12,000 invested in the two entities in this project. It was a fail on my part. I think it was the biggest fail in my career. I was devastated. I nearly resigned out of shame. It shattered me. I didn't know what my bosses were going to say. I knew they were disappointed. I just cannot explain what I was going through. I remember I was crying. I think one of my friends, Vanessa, she came to ADMA one of the days and I just broke down. And ADMA came and went and I was putting on a brave face just to get through it. And for the next 3 weeks, it was difficult. Should I resign? Should I stay? And after some time, my boss and my mentor now, Lance Kumalo, said to me, Kuzi, I'm happy that this happened. And I looked at him and I said, what? And he said, yes, you need to fall. You need to fail. You can never be perfect. You can't be perfect. You deliver for the business. I get it. You make small mistakes. That's good. But you needed a big failure like this for you to realize that you're not superwoman. You are just human, So I appreciated that. And I remember even before the conversation happened, I wrote an email to my bosses and I said, I take full responsibility for this. And I understand that it has impacted business relationships and maybe things that they've worked on over a long time to get to where the business was. And I came in and I made this big error. And one of my bosses at the time and my mentor right now still said to me, it's okay. It's allowed. And I was like, wow, but that is failing forward. Where you fail, where you make a big screw up, where maybe I cost the business another $30,000 at the time. But my bosses looked at it, you know what? It's fine. It happens. Are we steps back? Yes, we are. But does she still bring value to the business? Yes, she does. So do we need to crucify her and put her on the cross? No, we do not. So our businesses allowing people to fail forward. I don't know, but we need more Our cultures like that, because when people are comfortable enough to fail forward and to celebrate their mistakes or to learn from their mistakes, it now gets you into a space where you can now innovate, where you can now produce, where you can now do better, where people can now knock on their boss's door and say, hey, I was thinking of this. I know this is crazy, but can we try it? And the boss says yes, if it does make sense. So that's the first thing about what we offer in terms of team capacitation. We know that some businesses have the systems, they have the structures, they don't have skills and knowledge gaps, but they have issues to do with mindset, culture, team dynamics, and accountability and responsibility. And we come in and we deal with those issues. We have learning sessions, we watch different videos, we have different discussions. In the past week, we've been dealing with culture in most of the entities that I'm working with right now, or that have just started the journey with us. And it's amazing to see how much the teams open up when their business leaders start by opening up and they say, oh no, I'm an overachiever, I'm mind over matter. And then somebody else says, oh no, but I'm like this. Oh no, but I'm like that. And one says, I am blunt, I don't know how to sugarcoat, and the rest of the team is open enough to speak to that. But then that allows us now to start dealing with the real issues and to say, okay, so as a team, how do we reach a midpoint where everybody's. Then the second part now is where a team may have skills gaps or knowledge gaps. Is it SOPs? Is it fresh people that are coming from different departments, or maybe they're coming out of school, they've never done marketing, but they're willing to learn. We come in and we teach them. This is how you consolidate a strategy document. This is how you profile your target market. These are the ideal SOPs. As a marketing person or as a business person, this is how you dress. This is how you present yourself. Remember, you're constantly the face of the business. But before you're the face of the business, you are a brand on your own, and you can never make a first impression twice. You get to make that impression once. So we come in with SOPs, we come in with digital tools. We have a tool as Imani Consulting that we have adopted, and we put our clients into our subscription, and we set up their spaces and their projects to suit their business needs according to how we understand it. So they're not trying to figure out the tool. We figured it out for them, and we're setting it up for them according to what works best for them. If it's not working, we break it all down, we start again. So even as a consulting business, we put on an attitude of also failing forward. We are very comfortable to say to clients, you know what, I tried this, I don't think it's working, let's try something else. And I'm grateful that at this point, the clients that we've had as Imani have given us that opportunity, have trusted enough to say, I don't think this is working, let's try this. I've been really grateful for that. So now in terms of team capacitation, when it comes to skills and knowledge gaps, sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 6 months, sometimes it takes longer, sometimes, it varies depending on the size of the organization, depending on the type of the team that we are dealing with and the like. So this is what we are really specializing in. This is how we are then coming in to say, this is how you talk to a radio station when you're briefing in your campaign. This is the mindset that I want you to have. So it's now saying, so for example, I have a new client right now, and, you look at their digital material and the team is fairly young, and you're like, this has too many words. Would you read this flyer? No, I wouldn't. And I say, why? And they say, well, it just has too much information. Then I'm saying, so why are you putting somebody else through that? If you're not going to read it, then why would you expect the next person to read it? Would you read a document that is 5 pages about a product? No, I wouldn't. I don't have that time. I get bored. I want to do, I just get to the point, So it's practice.
Sorry to cut you. So I'm seeing we are running out of time. So I wanted to ask one of the question.
Yes.
For us to conclude our conversation, right? So from all the services that you're providing and the value that you're adding into the Zimbabwean market and other markets in terms of marketing, you don't seem to mention anything to do with digital, right? Digital marketing as a service that you provide to your clients and the Zimbabwean market. So my question to you is, with the way technology is moving fast, right? As from yesterday, right, we're talking of Microsoft releasing what we call AI agents that can do your coding, that can do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then we also have, Google releasing Gemini as an operating system or something of that sort, and all this technology that is really being rolled out. So my question to you is, what's your take on AI and Zimbabwe as a market? And I understand you said traditional is not obsolete. Still there. Traditional marketing is still relevant as much? Is it something that is different from one market to the other in Africa? Because if I look at South Africa, definitely South Africa is a step ahead of Zimbabwe in terms of adoption
Yeah,
of technology, because
yeah,
they're quick to adopt technology, and Zimbabwe maybe a little bit laid back, and the
yeah.
market as well, due to maybe, let's say, for example, access to data and being expensive. Maybe some people don't have data in the rural areas or in the suburbs or wherever they are, and you can't reach them easily. But here in South Africa, they can be easily reached. So what's your take on AI and its impact, and Imani on technology, the digital aspect of it? I think that will conclude our conversation basically.
Okay, so AI, while others may say that AI is replacing jobs, is replacing people in jobs, I think AI is a complement. It's the tool that has come in to do the heavy lifting for us. Where I would probably spend 4 hours coming up with a concept or coming up with an idea, now I think up my idea and then I give AI a brief. Like, AI is now my agency. AI, can you help me structure a digital campaign for this to market team capacitation for Imani Consulting, for example? And then AI, I'll give it a rundown to say team capacitation at Imani is about this, this, and that, etc. AI will come back with a response. I will pick what I want. I will discard what I don't want. If I feel that the answer is not satisfactory, I will ask again, or I will ask in a different way. So, as far as AI is concerned, I think as a business, we've embraced it. We embrace it. We agree with it. We love it because it means that we do our things in less time. But I think the thing is just knowing how to leverage it. So, are there AI agents that can code something? Awesome. The great thing is that my business partner is a whole technology person. So, he can now invest more time in looking at those particular solutions and how, as a business, we can adopt the relevant elements and integrate those different elements into the tools that we use. We believe as a business, with my business partner, that technology should do the heavy lifting for you. You should focus on the running of the business, or making sure that your product is bought or your business is moving from one level to the next. You shouldn't be worried about, was this task done as a business leader, to say, did Chipo do this? Did James do that? Did whoever do this? Did whoever do that? Put it into the technology tool, put it into the task manager. I need you to do this and that. I need you to do this and that. Wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, I'll see a comment. Chipo has asked me a question. That's, a comment. Chipo has completed this task. It is done. Whoever has done this, whoever has done that. So I think digital is amazing. I think AI is amazing. I think as a business, or as business people, we now need to look at AI as the thing that is coming to make our work better and improve on our service delivery, as opposed to a threat. The minute that you look at AI as a threat for your business or for your job, then you're thinking the wrong way. That's my take, or that's what I would say about AI and digital and technology as a whole.
And the adoption of tech in Zimbabwe, as in digital marketing and tech, what's your take on that?
I think it's fair. I think business people are beginning to understand that digital is important. They do understand that people do spend a lot of time on their phones, and they are making an effort to invest more in digital. Unfortunately, in Zimbabwe, you'll find that, or well, rather, I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunate, you find that the spend on traditional media has started going down. And I think that is where the myth also comes from, to say that traditional media is becoming obsolete, or it's now obsolete, because companies are finding that it's cheaper to leverage the digital channels in Zimbabwe. It's cheaper when you invest more into YouTube. You can invest $1,000 into YouTube and reach so many more people. You can invest $1,000 into Facebook and reach, so many more people. It's a lot cheaper than going to radio, because that same $1,000 probably buys you a couple of slots on radio. But for radio to be impactful, you need to invest at least $5,000 if you're going to get the right kind of value, or if the campaign is going to run effectively. So Zimbabwe is adopting digital as much as possible. I think, like I was saying earlier, every agency that says as a marketing agency in Zimbabwe, their primary thrust is we do digital, we do your social media, we know Google, we know, and everybody is leveraging off that. And that is why Imani as a business is saying, yes, we'll do your digital. We do an amazing job at it. And I believe in content plan for the month, digital or creative team, do the work. Let's schedule it into the tools. Let's move on with the day-to-day business, or let's move on with the other things that bring real money into the business, or let's then focus on now spending time converting the leads that we have generated online. The adoption is there. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we still have some business leaders that are older and that don't necessarily understand digital the way that we do. My mom is 60. She's on the 6th floor, and I know that when she's using a phone, she doesn't use it the way that I use my phone. I probably utilize my phone a lot. Does. For her, it's can I use my WhatsApp? Can I take a good picture? Can I take a video? Can I watch some Netflix, which she has now begun to appreciate? Oh, can I maybe scroll on Facebook once or twice, and that's it. So now getting and why digital is an integral part of running a business, or getting someone of that generation to understand why digital is now the in thing and why this is where we're going. Sometimes it's difficult, and I think it's normal, it's natural. And I think as marketing people, if we can convince a person to buy our product, then surely we should find a way to convince our business leaders why it is important to invest in digital.
Agree with you. Kuziwa, it's been a pleasure talking to you, getting to know you, getting to know what you do, getting to know Imani and, the business that you work with. Do you have any, the last words that you want to say in this episode?
And thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Techmark Pod. Thank you so much for finding me and asking me to have a conversation with you. I don't take this lightly. I'm getting a call all the way out of South Africa to say, you know what, we want to hear your story. We want to talk about your brand. We want to talk about what you are doing. So I really appreciate that. I don't take it lightly. And I hope that we can have more conversations in the future and even collaborate as markets and, take innovation to Africa, take it to the world. I think my parting statement to business leaders, to business owners out there is to say, you know what, there is a solution to the problem. Are you speaking to your team and they're not quite understanding what you're saying? Do you have a culture that you don't quite understand, or maybe the team is behaving a certain way and you don't know that that is the culture that is now resident within your business? Is your team maybe not effective enough? Are you struggling with accountability and ownership? Imani Consulting does have the answers. We do have the solutions for you, and we are willing to come to you to any part of the world, and we can offer this virtually. So we do look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks. I think that's been amazing. This has been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much for agreeing to come to Techmark Pod. And this marks the end of our first episode in season 2. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really excited. And yeah, thank you very much again, Kuziwa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Alvin.
Bye.
Have a good day, your week. Bye.
This was our first episode in season 2, and I just want to thank everybody that has been supporting us from season 1, episode 1 to 20. They've been sharing our episodes, they've been commenting. The community on LinkedIn has been growing very fast. And there's been a lot of engagement. We've managed to reach other people that we've never thought we would reach, and I'm just personally excited about where we are going. June, we're already scheduled for the whole month of June, and we have got guests that are going to be coming through to the podcast. We're going to have a different set on the podcast, but definitely this is going to be like one of the most exciting times for us and the growth of the podcast as well. So yeah, I just want to thank everyone. And also a reminder, we're going to be having our first digital marketing masterclass by 30th of May. Foreground in Midrand, just opposite Galaga Convention Center, and that will be the first of our masterclass, and hoping to host more. So if you're a small business owner or a medium business owner, surely you can register now, and we'll see you next week Friday. So yeah, thanks everyone. Don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe.